You ever make a choice just to be petty and then accidentally become the neighborhood legend? That's me. The day I bought 40 acres out of spite, I had no idea it would end with the HOA president screaming outside my gate, purple-faced, getting cuffed on my security cam. Yeah, I know. Sounds like something you only see in those crazy neighbor compilations, right? But I promise you, this is real life, my life. And if you stick around, you're about to hear how karma can sometimes be as thick as the Georgia clay. I remember that afternoon clear as day. Me, lying back in my wildflower meadow, sun on my face, honeysuckle on the breeze, birds just doing their thing. Then, boom, her BMW comes barreling up the drive like a missile with a personal vendetta. The steel gates slammed shut behind her with a sound I still replay for fun, electronic locks sealing tight. Her horn blasting so loud I thought the windows might crack. There she was, standing in the dust, yelling, "You can't do this to me." And all I could do was grin, because here's the part that flipped her world upside down. My land was totally outside her little HOA kingdom. Zero power. Pure kryptonite for a control freak like Dolly. 6 months later, I'm sipping coffee, watching the deputies walk her off my property for trespassing, replaying the footage like it's my favorite movie. I don't know if you've ever dealt with one of those power-hungry HOA types, the kind who act like they own your soul. But if you have, yeah, you get it. Anyway, let me back up and show you how the whole thing snowballed. Name's Marcus. Marcus Remy. I'm 45, and not too long ago, I was just your run-of-the-mill divorced dude try to glue life back together. Ex-wife blew up our marriage for the financial advisor, because apparently secure investments are more attractive than dad bods and home cooking. Whatever. I needed quiet to heal, and working from home as a software engineer meant I could plant myself pretty much anywhere. So, I picked Willowbrook Estates. Sounds fancy, right? Estates. If I've learned one thing, it's this. Any neighborhood that calls itself an estate, but is really just a bunch of copy-paste houses, probably has a serious control issue. But hey, the house had good bones, big yard on the corner, and I figured maybe I'd get a shot at growing tomatoes and having peace for once. First day, the paint still smelled fresh. I was full of hope and half-baked plans for a backyard garden. Then I met her, Dolores, a.k.a. Dolly, the queen bee. Picture a 52-year-old in a spotless white BMW with a custom plate, HOA 1, rolling up with an iPad clutched like it's the Declaration of Independence. She'd been HOA president for 8 years, and her poor husband, Roger, always trailed behind her looking like he'd just been scolded for breathing too loud. The fun started week 3. I'm just trying to enjoy a cup of coffee and the sound of silence when, bang, 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 Dolly's at my door. No, hello. No welcome basket, just your mailbox is non-compliant. The way her stylus clicked against the iPad, it sounded like a judge's gavel. Apparently, black mailboxes are the devil's work. She wanted forest green and only forest green. Fine for $150, plus mandatory correction. Here's the kicker. That mailbox came with the house. Last owner had it HOA approved. But to Dolly, facts were just little speed bumps on her highway to power. Oh, she didn't stop there. It was like she made a game out of ticketing me. My work van in the driveway. Commercial vehicle violation, $300. My daughter's garden gnome? Aesthetic violation, $500. Security cameras because, get this, a neighbor got robbed? Another $500 for creating an atmosphere of suspicion. I could barely blink without violating something. The real slap in the face came during my housewarming barbecue. I'd invited maybe 15 people, nothing wild, just burgers, kids laughing, people tossing a frisbee. It was the first time since my divorce I actually felt like life might be normal again. Then, out comes Dolly, strutting across my patio uninvited, holding a noise meter in one hand and a tape measure in the other, heels stabbing my concrete like she was dancing on a grave. And the perfume? Enough lavender to fumigate an elephant. She stands there, checking decibel levels, waving her iPad, and says, loud for everyone to hear, "This exceeds maximum assembly parameters. 30 minutes to disperse," or "I call the authorities." It was 3 p.m. on a Saturday. The only crime was me playing Kenny Chesney at a volume just high enough to cover up my guests' awkward laughter. And just like that, folks started packing up, potato salad abandoned, beers half finished. They were afraid of her, plain and simple. That night, the house felt emptier than ever, laughter replaced by the sound of crickets. I sat there, looking at the leftover burgers and feeling something shift inside me. Enough was enough. Now, you ever get so mad you can't sleep? That was me 3 nights in a row. But anger's a funny thing. It can make you stupid, or it can make you smart. I started combing through every HOA rule, every state law, sticky notes plastered all over my dining table. Turns out, Dolly had skipped required hearings, overstepped her authority, and was charging made-up fees left and right. I even found out agricultural zoning usually overrules residential restrictions, something I'd picked up in a property law class I almost slept through years ago. But I wasn't the only one. 3 other neighbors were also on her hit list, over bird feeders, playground sets, you name it. It was always excessive, always cruel. One morning, while doom-scrolling through property maps and venting to myself, I noticed a chunk of land right up against the subdivision, 40 acres of agricultural land, just sitting there untouched and, crucially, not part of Dolly's little fiefdom. Belonged to this old guy, Ezra, who I'd seen at the local diner, always eating pie and minding his own business. Long story short, Ezra was tired. Developers had been badgering him with lowball offers, but he just wanted a fair deal and to keep the land from turning into another sea of fake stucco homes. We shook hands over greasy diner coffee, and in less than a week, the land was mine. Dolly found out faster than my mom finds out when I'm sick. She stormed up to my door, red-faced, nostrils flaring, shouting, "You can't just buy land despite the HOA." I wish you could have seen her face when I showed her the deed, sunlight glinting off the seal. "Completely outside your jurisdiction, Dolly," I said, barely holding in a laugh. For the first time, she had nothing, just sputtering and retreating in her Beamer, tires squealing. You'd think that would have ended it. But no, she doubled down, called city planning, tried to get my driveway project blocked, whipped up a petition about agricultural traffic endangering children. She made it sound like I was building a pig farm, not just putting in a gravel drive and a veggie patch. But here's where being a nerd pays off. I hired a surveyor, mapped every inch, proved my driveway sat fully on my land, no permits needed. Hired contractors who'd all been burned by Dolly before, guys who took genuine joy in every scoop of dirt. We started work at 7 a.m. sharp every day. You should have seen the look on her face as the machines rumbled to life, earth moving as therapy. She tried everything, called code enforcement, tried to tow the workers' trucks, even stood in front of the cement mixer like she was protesting an oil spill. My crew just worked around her, sometimes waving at her camera, flexing for effect. The crowning jewel was the gate, 8 feet of steel, electronic keypad, cameras everywhere, motion sensors, so even if I was halfway around the world, I could check on things. I once told Dolly, as she sneered about my fortress, "Actually, I can watch you lose your mind in real time from anywhere." Her jaw dropped so hard I'm amazed it didn't hit the curb. She tried a social media war next. Started a Facebook group for concerned citizens, posted dramatic photos of my gate, warning about property values under siege. I made my own group, just a place for folks to share their stories. Turns out, plenty of people were sick of her. Photos of $900 fines for bird feeders, stories of families bullied out of their homes. The tide started to turn. Then she tried the city council, claimed my solar panels would cause electromagnetic hazards. So I went fully off-grid, drilled a well, set up compost toilets, total independence. Every time she blocked something, I found a workaround. At some point, her fear campaign became so wild that even her own supporters started jumping ship. She tried sneaking onto my property behind a UPS truck, got stuck behind my gate like a mouse in a trap, heels slipping on the gravel. My cameras caught every second. I even live-streamed it. Thousands watched as she panicked, tried to climb, finally sprinted to her car when I opened the gate remotely. Then came the manila envelope. Anonymous, thick with board meeting minutes. Turns out, someone had been copying records for months, someone close. Inside, I found proof Dolly was embezzling tens of thousands in fines, funneling it to family businesses, all while targeting undesirable families with bogus violations. The worst part? Her notes, in her own handwriting, planning who to harass next, even driving out folks who didn't fit her vision. Made my stomach turn. That's when Roger, her husband, came to me, nervous, hands shaking. He'd sent the documents. He was done watching her hurt good people. Said he'd slept on the couch for 2 years, threatened with divorce if he ever spoke up. His breaking point? Seeing her terrorize an 85-year-old widow over an uneven sidewalk. He handed me the final piece, her journal with lists of targets, personal spending records, everything. I called Sarah, an attorney known for tearing apart corrupt HOAs. She looked at the evidence and just whistled. This is a federal case. We brought together every family Dolly had hurt. Mothers who'd had to choose between groceries and fines, veterans bankrupted over weeds. We built a case that was airtight. Our digital forensics guy dug up fake invoices, secret accounts, more evidence than we knew what to do with. Final step was the board meeting. Everyone showed up, hundreds crowding into the hall and spilling out into the parking lot. Dolly tried to shut it down, but the press was there, sheriff's deputies at the doors. One by one, people stood up, sharing how Dolly had ruined their lives, stolen their money, bullied them out. When Roger stood up and said, "I gave them the records. Enough is enough," she lost it, called him incompetent, tried to spin the story, but nobody was buying it. Sarah, my attorney, laid out the proof, embezzlement, fraud, civil rights violations. The room erupted. Deputy Martinez stepped forward, warrant in hand. "Dolores Peton, you're under arrest." That moment, the metallic click of handcuffs, the look on her face, I'm not proud to say it, but I've never felt anything sweeter. Years of pain, fear, humiliation, all gone in a heartbeat. A year later, the air smells like basil and hope. Kids run where Dolly's shadow used to fall. She did 18 months in federal prison, paid back every dollar she stole. The HOA is now actually about helping people. Real community, real improvements, real joy. Roger finally found peace, teaching kids about soil instead of living in fear. Even I found something good. Sarah and I started seeing each other, our battles turning into quiet walks through tomato rows. You know, looking back, I never wanted a war. All I wanted was to be left alone. But sometimes you have to stand up. Sometimes the fight finds you. That's the lesson that snuck up on me. You can't always pick your battles, but you can choose not to let bullies win. And if you get a chance to bring some sunlight to the shadows, do it. You might just find a whole army standing with you. So what do you think? When does standing up become just another kind of power play? Where's the line between protecting your rights and starting a war? Ever been in a neighbor standoff that went nuclear? Or maybe you took down a bully of your own? Drop your story below. Because if there's one thing I learned, it's that corruption thrives in darkness, but dies the minute the neighborhood flips on the lights.